Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. A dingily lit room that I'm in at the moment. I don't know why. I just felt like I
You
wanted to
actually,
do
you
this.
actually look like it's 11 o'clock on transfer deadline day, and you're about to deliver some news.
No, I wish I was. I wish we were be able. I feel like I've been delivering news. I feel like I've done the rounds of transfer deadline day today, Paddy. Been a busy day. Been on the whole cast just there. Been on Claret and Blue. Had a great chat with Dan Ronaldson. Check that out if you didn't see it. I really enjoyed that today, and now I get to have my favorite chat of the day with Paddy. Well, Paddy Kelly to discuss
I heard,
Southampton.
I heard you on something else today.
What else was I on today?
Oh,
I was on Claret and Blue.
all Villa no filler, was it?
Oh, Villa no filler last night. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Getting them all in. Yeah, Frankie's out. So if you guys don't watch the Villa no filler with Frankie and the guys there, Frankie's great. It's serious production quality. I like watch it. That's what I'll just tell you. Just watch it.
Yeah,
It's very
we
good.
could do with producers like them on our show, making sure
Absolutely.
we're staying
Absolutely, yeah.
between the lines.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I just like a producer just to move the screens around so I don't make a Harlex of it every time I go to press a button.
I love to listen to all the podcasts when I spend a lot of time in
Yeah.
the car. So, those guys, I love the way they're quite light-hearted, and himself and George they bounce off each other well. They've obviously got a good relationship, so I enjoy that podcast, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an idea for something for charity. I keep it close to my vest for the moment, but it involves podcasts. Anyway, we'll speak more about that. But we do have Southampton coming up the weekend, and that's what we're here to chat about. And it's it's one of those games that feels like a trap game, as in they lost, and then they won. And then all of a sudden, there seems to be a bit of buoyancy about Southampton at the moment. I don't know whether they've made the right managerial appointment in Nathan Jones. I think very much so. People would look at that, and you might disagree with me in that one, Paddy. But I think a lot of people look at that and maybe go, that's taking a chance, a la Brighton did with the likes of Graham Potter, bringing him up from Swansea. But I know that Nathan Jones is highly thought of as a coach, but I'm just not sure. Am I wrong to feel that way, or am I right to feel that way? I don't know.
Look, you never know with these kind of appointments. It's the same with us with Dean Smith, and he did a great job for us. I think it's good that clubs give the homegrown managers a chance, because it's the only way we're going to find out if they're any good. I'd rather it's not us giving us to untried managers, but we did with our last manager, and it didn't work out too well. But you just never know. As I said, we did get a free Boubacar Kamara out of Steven Gerrard, so I'm all for ex players getting a go at this, and good managers who are coming through the ranks at lower league clubs and at underage teams at bigger clubs even. So there's a lot of that going on at the moment. So you do see it at in the Championship and further down. So why not the Premier League give someone a chance to see what they're made of?
Yeah.
Some people will argue that it was the cheap option. That's your own opinion, but for me, I think everybody is worth a try.
And I think really, it's for me. I think with Southampton, you look at them; they've always had a philosophy of trying to bring in somebody who can coach. You go back through well, I know there's obviously people are going to pull out a duck egg somewhere along the line. Where Alf Hasenhüttl, for all his bonkers tactical decisions at times, could coach teams. Nathan Jones is a coach primarily. So it's you even go back to Nigel Adkins, was it Nigel Adkins? Adkins, yeah, coach, another lower league coach that came in and knew how to set up a team and knew how to set up training ground aspects and stuff like that. So they have a bit of a history of doing that and a bit of pedigree of doing that. So like it's not a surprise, but it's going to be interesting to see what he puts out, because he has had a rough enough start to the season. They've brought in some good players, Southampton, like Kaleta Carr, who we were linked with. They've also had a bit of upheaval because the guy who came in and started bringing in half of the Man City academy left, and up sticks and left and went to Chelsea. Like three, I suppose that's what you get when you try and poach your cuckoo and you start poaching eggs out of someone else's nest. You're always afraid that egg is going to hatch and it's going to fly off and do a cuckoo to the next nest as well. And his seat wasn't even warm when he came in; he was gone. But he did bring in some good players, Paddy, the likes of Romeo Lavia, who's a good player. Who did I read he might be out at the weekend? No, he's not. No, he's in.
No, he's in.
And Gavin Bazzuno, we know here for the Irish team as well. But why do you think, Paddy? And I know I might be putting you on the spot here, but why do you think that this Southampton team isn't clicking? Do you think it's solely down to a new manager? Or do you think that it's that they've gone too young, too fast?
Well, it depends on what your opinion of not clicking is. They've won their last 2 Premier League games and they've knocked Man City out of the cup. So are they starting to click? Are they coming into form? Is it a bounce that they're on? I don't know. We'll find out on Saturday if our bounce continues. Look, they've a lot of names in there capable of winning games at Premier League level. There's some decent talent in there. Coletta Carr, who they signed, decent signing. They have a great goalkeeper, as you said. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for all this to come together. I think they're one of the teams, one of several. Like, the amazing thing about this game is they win against us on Saturday. They could go as high as 14th or 15th. That's just the way. It's bonkers that you can go from the bottom of the league to 15th or 14th. And bear in mind that we're 3 weeks into January at this stage, and these are all cut adrift. That's just not happening. So a little bit of patience is needed there. I don't know what way their fans are with things, but they could very easily win a few on the bounce here and not have to worry about it. Looking down at anything, but they do have to play Newcastle next, and then it's Brentford and Wolves. So big few weeks ahead for them. Plus, of course, they're still in the EFL Cup and they're still in the FA Cup. So
Yeah,
they have a lot of irons in the fire. So
yeah, and that Newcastle game is in the League Cup as well.
is it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that Newcastle game is in the League Cup,
Yeah.
and so they play Blackpool in the FA Cup.
Newcastle twice. Yeah, sorry.
Newcastle,
Yeah.
yeah, coming up
Yeah.
as well. So they have a lot of, as you said, they have a lot of irons in the fire, and even looking at it over the next 10 days, they have 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 games in the next 10 days. So they've also got a considerable, well, I won't say considerable, they've got 5 players out injured at the moment, so they don't exactly have a massive squad either. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, and I'm not suggesting that they're going to rest anybody at the weekend, because I think that they're going to think home form is going to keep them up this season, or it's going to keep them above their heads afloat above water. But I suppose looking towards Aston Villa for the weekend, and I know we will get on and talk about the Danny Ings piece in a moment, because it's going to probably dominate a talking point, I suppose, with regards to this game at the weekend, considering how threadbare striking options were prior to Ings leaving, and now they're obviously not in any better state. But Villa are going to go to Southampton at the weekend, Paddy. And I think that it's going to be a case of, can Southampton break down Villa? Are they going to have the nous to break down Villa? Or are they going to work? Or are we going to have to just basically defend and hope not to give away a free kick within 25 yards and hope the Ward-Prowse doesn't put it in the back of the net? I think what I'm trying to get at here is that I have a newfound confidence in this Aston Villa team to be able to defend and catch teams in the break. And I don't know whether that is a case of arrogance on my behalf, or falsely placed arrogance, or whether it's what we're just going to have to likely see when we go away from home in these games.
Well, I always have a fear of playing the teams that are further down, that they're in trouble and need the points. We'll get on to Danny Ings later, as you said, but we're effectively going into this now with no strikers, because our strikers are probably better on the wing than where they are. They're not going to get us bags of goals. So it's a question of where the goals come from. We need to score, and we need to get ahead. I think once we get ahead in this game as early as possible, as always, I think we'll frustrate them and we'll hit them on the break, and that's the beauty of what you get out Watkins and Bailey. I think we will, if we get ahead, we will win the game and win it comfortably. But getting ahead is the problem. I think they'll be tough to break down themselves.
Um, they're most likely going to go with that three at the back, so it allows Walker Peters go forward, and who's the mush on the other side? Probably play Elianusi on the other side, I would say, in that wing role. Through the middle, they're probably going to have the two guys in Diallo and Lavia, Ward Prowse in there as well. So what I'm getting at here is I don't think that we're going to get involved in I don't think we're going to get involved in a wing play battle with them. I think that we're going to be stout. We're going to play a resolute 4-4-2. It's going to be interesting to see, does Ramsey start off the right this time? Does he go with Buendia up top with Watkins and Bailey on the right, Ramsey on the left, like we played in the second half against Leeds? So I think that's going to be interesting. I think if he does go that route, I think what we'll see is Ramsey cutting in an awful lot to kind of counteract that midfield three. But I think my biggest the biggest thing that I'm looking at is Walker Peters is their outlet. He was their outlet all last season. And I think he's going to be someone that they're going to look to get crosses in as well. So my eyes are going to be firmly placed on Alex Moreno in this game. What's your kind of hopes for him in this game, Paddy? And do you think that he's like obviously we like what we've seen from him already, but do you think that now that there's 81 minutes of tape on him that they might be able to spot some flaws in his game?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what you can gather from that game. It was a very rough and tumble game. It was very end to end. I think this one will be a whole lot different, and I think we might get some change out of Moreno in attack, as well as defensively. We're going to need him to start off, but I think they can be got at down that side. Elianusi defensively, I think, is poor. I think he's a very good attacking player, but poor defensively if he's deployed in that role. So it'll be an interesting battle between the two of them. But where I see the game won and lost from our point of view is not giving away stupid free kicks and not having Austin McPhee's tape sent to the FA about the walls not being back 10 yards, coming back to haunt him. And that's genuinely a fear of mine. He has done it before. I wouldn't be surprised to see if we give away a free kick to see a Moreno or an Ashley Young standing on the post, as just something different. If that was to happen, I think that's something we might deploy. That hasn't been seen in a long time around the Premier League, and that would be my way of deterring them from trying to break us down for those free kicks around the box.
Yeah, they're always going to be a talking point when you come up against James Ward-Prowse because everybody knows that like he's got a talent for that and for pinging one in the top bin. My biggest problem, I suppose, with the fact that Southampton, they've won their last Premier League game against Everton. They had to rely on James Ward-Prowse to pull one out of the bag. He ain't going to score one in every game, so. They've obviously brought in your man Orsic up front, the Croatian guy, more than likely going to play alongside Che Adams this weekend. But I just we've spoken about breaking down players in the lower block or teams in the lower block previously. Like I genuinely can't. I would be absolutely flummoxed if Southampton were to break us down when we go into our defensive shell, into almost our 6-man defense. I just can't see it, and for that reason, I always think, and I've no other reason to believe we did it against Leeds, we did it against Spurs, we did it against, and teams are always going to create chances, but if they don't score them, then that's all they are. It's chances. Jesus, we've been in that bucket before, but I always think it gives us a puncher's chance against any team, and when we go away to a team like Southampton, I expect it to be our structure, and I expect us to win this at the weekend because we finally have some sort of tactical structure in there, albeit not pretty. Do you think that he's going to? Do you think he's going to abandon that structure, Paddy, even away from home, like he arguably did against Liverpool? Because that seems to have been the furthest deviation he's gone from his normal everyday plan. And whether that was meant by the players, or whether that was meant by him, or whether it was something that just happened by the players. What do you think? Do you think he's going to abandon that stout defensive structure?
Yeah, I don't think it was abandoned by him. I think that's just the way. There was just this. I suppose too much respect given to Liverpool, and that's what caused the change in shape.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion on it. And my friend who sits in the lower Trinity said that he had his work cut out for him that day because there was fellas all over the place, just being dragged here and there. Even though Liverpool weren't that good, I suppose it was just a fear and a respect that led them to do that. It's not so long ago we kind of laughed at Southampton's 4-2-2-2 and a Hasselhutl and saying he was mad and all that, and all of a sudden in attack, that's the way we are ourselves. I think it's all good. I think he'll stick to his guns. He seems to be, I suppose, stubborn is a word I'd use. So I can't imagine he's going to deviate from that, especially this weekend against a team that's fighting for
Mhm.
his life. I think it's the right system to set up and the right system to get at them on the break.
Yeah, I think so too, and I agree with it. And look, I've no problem playing out the next 20 games or the next 19 games that we've left in the league with that structural, resolute defense because I want to see it in action. And I think the defense that we have at the moment, and I've said it in a couple of podcasts today. I think that yes, we do need a striker. Yes, we do need a winger, and I think that we'll be active, obviously, with getting those. But over the next two transfer windows, obviously, when I speak about the next two, I mean June and the following January. I wouldn't be surprised to see the overhaul happen in defence just because of age profiles and so on. But I think the defence are learning what they need to do under Unai Emery. And Tyrone Ming said an interesting thing today. He said, well, actually, it mightn't have been today, but I saw an interesting quote from Tyrone Mings that sometimes I forget. He said before he joined Villa, he'd only played 20 games at centre half, and he was only kind of beginning now after 4 or 5 years of playing there to kind of understand the finer tunings of playing centre half. So maybe it takes different managers to be able to show players how to do that, and hopefully he goes on to prosper for the rest of the year under this defensive structure. But Paddy, let's mention the elephant in the room, or the elephant that has left the room at the moment. Danny Ings obviously transferred out of Aston Villa, out of Villa Park today, and be honest with you, a whirlwind transfer. You're well known as being one of his promoters. In fairness, hashtag Team Paddy. Talk to me about it, and what's your feelings on it? I
Well,
suppose overall.
it's not a question of being one of his promoters. I just always believe you have to have a goal scoring fox in the box at
Mm,
this level. Someone who'll dig you out when you're stuck. Someone to do what he did against Wolves, not only in scoring the goal, putting that ball through to Leon Bailey. The guy, in my opinion, did not get a fair crack at the whip at Aston Villa. That's just my opinion. He went through three managers. They all can't be wrong. If he goes, fair play to him. But I was gutted today to see that news, and kind of weird that he hasn't actually left. That the deal hasn't been done.
medical
'Cause-
was only done late this evening. I think I saw
Yeah,
that on Twitter somewhere.
but like I know Emery has said that it's done, so we just got to take that as gospel. But yeah, I'm gutted. I'm a bit pissed off and just a little bit worried. As I said to you earlier, we've got we've got the two boys. There's zero pressure on them now. Who's going to come off the bench? Caden Young, Coutinho, Buendia. The two boys are probably the best we have in that position, so they've nothing to worry about. They're going to start until Duran either does or doesn't go to this competition that's happening in South
He's
America.
not going. No, he's not going. But he won't
Well,
be
I
able to
know
play at the weekend.
Ash Priest has said it, but have we
Yeah.
heard anything officially that
No, we
that's the
haven't.
case?
No.
Yeah. So hopefully, I'd rather see him stick around. Um, on the other hand, it wouldn't be a bad preseason for him to go and get 3 games out there in a week. That's the other side of the coin from my point of view. He
Terrified
hasn't
he'd
played
pick up a hammer or
competitively.
something.
Pardon?
Be terrified he'd pick up a hammer or something like that.
Yeah, but like it's warm weather games. It's in the southern hemisphere, so it's summertime down there. I just think those 3 games will do him good. He's going to be here the weekend, and if he gets a run, it'll be probably be 10 minutes. So maybe they just want to keep him there and judge his fitness or whatever. It's just strange to pull him out at this stage. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days. Um, I don't know whether he even has his work permit at this stage, so I don't
No.
even know whether he'll be in the squad at the weekend. So whether it's
He
justified making
won't.
that
Ash Priest has
decision.
said that he won't be involved.
Mm,
It's unlikely that international clearance and that
yeah.
visas and work permits will be true.
Well, if that's the case, I'd have absolutely no problem sending them back to play those games because I think they'd stand to him. Bear in mind the MLS has finished since November, so he hasn't had any competitive action since then. I don't think he played
Yeah,
international football since November either.
no.
So yeah, look, it's a promising sign, and we spoke about him the other day. But the elephant in the room is now that we don't have a proven goal scorer in our squad. We don't have that guy who makes the defenders defend a bit deeply. Um, and I genuinely believe that given more time, he would have scored more goals, and he just didn't get it. And I totally get why Watkins was played ahead of him. I don't get why Bailey was constantly played ahead of him, over the last period of time. But we just got to trust the process now until the management team let us down, which we have a habit of doing to us. But hopefully it won't be this time. And trust that he has somebody coming in. I think he plays. He gives a lot of honesty, but he also plays his cards very close to his chest when he's speaking.
Mm.
And I think he spoke very well of Danny Ings today. In fairness to him, I think everybody knows that Danny Ings is a decent professional, and I don't think any right-minded football man will be happy that he's going. But on the other hand, 31 years of age, if the deal is right for us, so be it. I just felt we could have waited until Monday when we got a 2-week break. I know that probably wasn't
That's my
possible.
thought.
Yeah. If we'd have waited till Monday just to have that in the squad, then we've got 2 weeks off. But it's quite obvious West Ham want them in there and starting against Everton at the weekend. So we just got to do it.
Yeah. And as I said, look, I've spoken almost too many words on this today. So my one line synopsis is I would have been happier if we got somebody else in. I don't like the fact that we're left, as you said, with Treadbear in the striking department. I wish Danny Ings all the best. I would have been happier if it was 15 to 8 million, 18 million as opposed to 12 to 15. But they're all, I suppose, small things. And one last thing I'll say is that Unai Emery did speak well about him. He said this is a move for Danny Ings as much as it is a move for the club. And that would lead me to believe that there's probably a mutual kind of situation in this, that Danny Ings went, hey, listen, I'm 30, will be 31 in July. I ain't sitting on the bench. I can't sit on the bench. For my future, I don't want to be gathering dust, and I need to start playing. I've had 2 big injuries. So albeit I'm on a huge contract here at Aston Villa, I'll get decent money somewhere else, and I'll play myself into a better contract because I back myself. And that's probably the way the conversation went. And that's the type of guy that Danny Ings is.
I agree.
So fair play to him.
And I think this could be the boy of the transfer window because I think he'll get West Ham out of the shit without a shadow of a doubt. I just hope he doesn't do it against us in a few weeks.
West Ham should never be anywhere near where they are with the quality of player that they have. Like, it's ridiculous when you look at that. When you look at the front four that they have, even if you put in Skamaka instead of Antonio or Ings, you look at the 3 behind him, you look at the 2 behind them. It's mind-boggling where they are. So I actually think they would have pulled out of it regardless. They would have pulled out of the mire regardless. But
I still think they needed to sign players because it looks like there's lads there of down tools. So
Jared Bowen, what's happened there?
Yeah.
But
But
he was supposed to be on the plane to Qatar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
who knows?
Anyway,
They
exactly.
could come roaring back and finish ahead of us very easily. That's how close it is with everything. So
10 points. As I had this conversation in the Claret and Blue. That means they have to win 4 more games and win 4 games and us to lose 4 games in a 20-game period. It's not insurmountable, but
look what Newcastle did last year.
That's the one time it's ever been done in the league. One time it's ever been done in the league.
Just proving a point that it can be done.
That's what I'm saying. But there's how many years? 1992 to so there's 31 years of the Premier League. It was done once in 31. So they have a 1 in 31 chance, I suppose. That's the way we'll put it. That they could do that. But that would mean us. Anyway, doesn't matter. I don't know why I got into this with Dan Rollinson as well in the Claret and Blue today. I don't know why we picked West Ham as the benchmark of we've to finish above West Ham.
Because
we're 10
he's
points
signing our
ahead of them.
striker.
Yeah. I suppose maybe that is why it is. Paddy, let's talk a small about it as well. I have a podcast ready to go. I'm going to release it first thing in the morning on Moussa Dembele. I have another one on Jared Delafeo that I just completely forgot to release 3 days ago when I said I would. But on Moussa Dembele, Paddy, somebody that you've seen and that I've seen play for Celtic, obviously at a younger age, always looked like a player to me. He seems to have grown up a small bit. And what I mean by that is he's put a bit of meat in his bones and he's gone out to France. He's had some really good seasons. He's had some seasons where it hasn't clicked for him. What's your view of him as a player, I suppose? Maybe even just thinking back these days at Celtic.
Well, he was very exciting at Celtic, very raw at the time. Obviously, the standards, you have to take that with a pinch of salt as well. But he had this unbelievable knack of getting away from the central defender and being
Brilliant.
over the space of a half a second, he's gained 7 or 8 yards, and they just couldn't deal with him up there. Whether he still has that after bulking up, I watched recently, as I say, a game he played against PSG back in, I think it was October or whatever, and it was all off the shoulder, very close to the striker, and he just backed himself over those few yards. You can't question his finishing, and once he's in that position, I think he's a great goal scorer. It's just positionally, will he have the prowess to do that in the Premier League? He's only played a couple of games in the Premier League with Fulham back in the day, before they went down. So he did very well. 2 games, yeah.
Literally a couple, yeah.
No,
No,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought he played about. I thought he had about 20 Premier League
I did
games.
do my research.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
I'm saying I thought he played about 20. He was only 17 as well back then. Jesus,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
seems like a million years ago.
But
when
he
played.
absolutely tore up the championship then as well, which, as we know, is very hard to do. So he's well capable of doing it. Can we get a tune out of him? I think this management team can. Where you've a lot of questions then. Where does Duran come in? Where does Bailey go? Where does Watkins go? So look, I think we need a striker. I think we need to have one more in. I think the deal could be right for us, bearing in mind that it looks like Lyon are trying to offload him on a contract termination, as opposed to trying to get money just to get him off the books so they can get a couple of players in.
They're looking at signing a young Brazilian guy that Newcastle are looking at as well. Actually, 2 young Brazilian guys. One Newcastle are looking at, and the name escapes me of the other guy. I mentioned him on a podcast recently. I think it might have been on the Villa View. He was. It just stood out to me because he was one of those Brazilian strikers that I was looking at to do specifically Brazilian players in Brazil that Villa should just go away and target and sign them up when they're young, and then they go away and they do that with John Duran. So this is me having a bitch and moan session about why Villa aren't scoring the South American market to try and sign up and come in players and bring them in for 16, 17, 18 million, and then watch their prices rise, and then they go in, they do it with John Duran. I'll talk more on Moussa Dembele in the podcast that I'm going to do on him, but I'm like you. I actually think he's what Unai Emery wants, and probably it's more that movement between the two centre halves. I'm going to be talking about that an awful lot. I've done a bit of research on some players that Emery had, like Gerardo Romero, at Sevilla. I haven't seen Moussa Dembele's pace slack off, as in I haven't seen him turn into Lukaku overnight since he started to bulk up a small little bit. One thing I will say about Moussa Dembele, for a guy at 6 foot, he's one of the best winners of when I say he's one of the best, he's pretty decent at winning aerial duels. You know, winning that ball in the air, trying to get that ball to win those flick-ons and to bring that down. He's in the top 10% of strikers in all of Europe's top 5 leagues at that, which is deceptive, and it's something that maybe we've missed because we certainly don't have a headed goal threat anyway within the team, and we didn't with Ings and Watkins. So I think there's areas of his game he's extremely comfortable with the ball at his feet as well. Doesn't have that defensive work to his game. Albeit he's not a slouch in defence, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have the defensive work that Danny Ings did. Danny Ings was superb in a defensive position for Aston Villa, and that's something that always went under the radar. But I'll talk about that a small bit more, and I'd be happy with the Moussa Dembele if he was to come in. And it's kind of come out of nowhere, Paddy. Like I mentioned him to you, I think at the start of the transfer window, or maybe around Christmas time. I just as a throwaway name, going, I think I'll do a podcast on him because he looks like an interesting character, and I never did it, obviously. And then this comes up, but it seemed like the way that Jacques Santi was saying today that it seems like there's a bit of something in it, that it's a
Well,
bit more
I
than
think
conjecture.
I think it's an attractive proposition. As I said, we're going to get him on a free. The wages won't be overly big either compared to what you're paying for a striker. I think you could get him in initially on a lower contract with bonuses written in there. So it sounds it sounds like a decent risk to take for the club as well as for Unai Emery. That if it wasn't to work out, that's okay. We could ship him out and everything would be absolutely fine, and no one would lose any sleep over it. It's we've a lot more worrying ones in the squad with paying big wages that we
Mm.
have to worry about than one like this. I don't imagine you'd have to pay him the extortionate wages unless there's somebody else in the battle, and then we're in a bidding war with wages. But I think it's a risk worth taking. As you said, I saw him many times play for Celtic, absolutely tear it up there. I know it's a different league. Didn't have a particularly good time in his loan spell at Atletico Madrid, but for Leon, all throughout his time there, he's been an ever present, and that I can only imagine that loan deal must have been too good for Leon to turn down, and that's why they let him go for that period of time. But it's a strange one, but to get him in this month for free, why not?
Yeah, a couple of things in him. Like he's yeah. No, I'll go into it more in the podcast and I release that. But I think I'm with you on that. I think, to be honest with you, I think he's probably a kind of a smart signing. Somebody to come in, does a lot of the things that Danny Ings does, and has the statistical output to back it up too. Albeit that Danny Ings just has otherworldly shots to goal ratios. Like, he's just
Mm.
as you say, he is a marksman, and that was never in question. Um, he like there are very few people over last year anyway, and specifically I suppose this year that had the shots to goal ratio of Danny Ings. But once again, as I say, eh, the Moussa Dembele is no slouch either in that aspect too. So I think it'd be an interesting prospect.
Mm.
And if he was to come in, he'll have 2 weeks to get into Unai Emery's way of thinking, and then to maybe get
Yeah.
into those.
I think there's a bit of downtime next week. I think the players are going away on Sunday.
Again, holiday
Yeah,
camp, back in holiday camp. They're
yeah.
just back from it. Jesus.
That's the joys of getting knocked out of the FA Cup by Stevenage. You can get a few days off to go to Dubai or wherever you want to go.
Well,
Uh,
see, and everybody was saying it's all downhill, it's all downtrodden, and we should be all upset about that. What happens if this break, Paddy, is the difference, and the players come back revitalized and we win the league? What happens? I'll put it down to this time off. The losing to Stevenage made us win the league. There we go. Um,
Good luck with
Let's
that.
look at a couple of the comments there, Paddy. Actually, I've completely neglected Matthew. I felt like I was giving out to you there, actually, because I've never called you Matthew before. Matt, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a busy day. It has been a busy day, all right, today, trying to fit everything in, having a full-time job as well, but I wouldn't have it any other way, and I thoroughly mean it when I say it. I genuinely could talk about Aston Villa for 24 hours straight, and I might just do that sometime. I might just do that, and we'll see.
I wouldn't put it past you.
I wouldn't put it past me either. 2 cans of Red Bull and a bottle of whiskey, and I might even get 2 days straight out of it. It'd be fine. Sorry, I can't shake this cough. A couple of other things there is we've got Mike Collins in LA. Good to have you, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Michael Huggins, right? I put up this comment, but what I wanted to say is I'm loving your puns about Duran in the chat, but I'm not putting them all up because I'd be here all night. So,
Not only is he
so thanks for that.
not only is he seen you more than the other half, he's now seen you in the dark.
Yeah, you see, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. Everybody's fancy see me in the dark, isn't it? That's what it is. Martin says a great thing here. Martin Furnival, let's make Ashley Young our striker. He smashed the last position change. Well, Martin, Ashley Young started as a striker for Watford, and that we actually signed him as he just transitioned into the wing position when we signed him from being a striker. And if I'm not mistaken, when he first joined the club, he was played as that number 10, the second striker up top. So maybe you're onto something there, Martin. Maybe you're onto something. The little Swiss Army knife, the 37-year-old Swiss Army knife could be one to to look at for that position. John Steele, good to see you, John. Emery's the hoodoo killer. Next to fall is the third kit hoodoo. Absolutely. Let's get rid of it. Let's get not the third kit. I'd actually like the look of it, but just let's get that monkey off our back as opposed to getting the kit off our back, I think. Michael, thank you so much. He says if you're doing something for charity, I can provide a Cadbury's chocolate hamper. Maybe. I might take you up on that offer. Michael. We'll speak more on that. Where else are we looking here? Daniel says he's a small bit concerned about the upcoming game. We have a habit of underachieving against teams lower in the table. Absolutely. And that's going to be one of the legacies I think that Unai Emery is going to have to dispel from this Aston Villa mindset. What do you think, Paddy?
Yeah, I think I said that earlier on. That's my fear against the teams that are in the mire, that we tend to not show up against them or feel that we just have to turn up and win. I think our psychology is changing. I think Emery is working his magic there a little bit. Obviously, we still think of Stevenage when things like this are going to come up. But as I said, the fact that they're bottom of the league, they're only one win away from being well out of it. So you just never know. And they've won their last two. So if they were to pull off a surprise here, would it be such a surprise? Maybe not. I just think we have to be at it from the word go. I think we will be, though. I think there's a lot to play for here with players coming in, talks of players coming in. There's players need to play themselves into their plans. Thought he spoke very well today. He sounds like a man that has them ready to go for this. Thought it unusual as well that he did the presser today so he could get his last bit of preparations in tomorrow before going down to stay outside Southampton tomorrow night. So all good, all positive from his point of view. We just got to make sure it's positive from the word go on Saturday.
A couple of people asking things. Can we call Archer? Says Pete. Can we call David? Says Bruce, or even Wesley.
No, David's is gone. Archer can't be recalled,
and Wesley is on his way back. I think somebody that actually sounded a bit bullshitty to me, but when I read it on Twitter today, I think it was just something that grew legs. Wesley in coming back.
But he's our player. He's our player.
He's our player. But
if his loan club decides he's coming back, I've even forgotten where he bloody is at this stage. Levante. If they decide he's coming back, he's coming back. Whether he can come back and play himself into the plans, who knows? I highly doubt it, considering he hasn't been the same player since that injury.
I'll write the script for the movie if he does.
Going to Turkey, is he?
No. I'll write the script if he comes back and shoots us up the table and comes back and is the striker that we've been missing. I'll write the script and we'll all of our listeners will all go to Cannes for.
Who knows?
For
he could be our Miguel Almiron.
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking more. What were the two strikers that Mike Bassett, England manager, called up? Was it Benson and Hedges?
Benson and Hedges.
Yeah. Maybe it could be something more like that. Actually, do you know what? I'm being harsh on him. I'm feeding into the stereotype of him. I actually quite liked him at Aston Villa, and I was one of the people who stood up for him until he got that injury. But he just hasn't done anything since he's come back from what must be said was a horrible injury. It was very bad.
Absolutely.
And then the infection, I think, afterwards certainly didn't help matters, which was really strange because the last two strikers that we had that got really bad injuries, Libor Kozak, bad infection almost ended his career, and then Wesley got an infection as well, and that's incredibly unlucky. Remember Libor Kozak? My God, them were the days, huh?
Also, John Steele says there someone else who's on his way back is Traore.
Bad knee injury,
but he's injured. Yeah.
Bad. He's only coming back because he picked up.
We're going to have a lot of players. Himself and Aaron Ramsey be keeping themselves very busy on the treatment table.
Yeah,
I think if someone else come back injury, we've Kane Kessler-Hayden back in the squad as well.
Brad Young is back.
Yeah. So I don't know whether he's brave enough to put Brad Young into the squad at the weekend, but I expect it's Caden Young is the only striker we're going to see on the bench. Although, who knows? Declan Firth, maybe. Who knows? Not Declan. What's his name?
Declan Firth, yeah.
Is Declan, yeah.
Declan, yeah. It's somebody who was in and around Chelsea and has scored quite a few goals for our youth system. he's an interesting one. He just never gets called up to the first team ever,
Mm.
ever, ever. So you kind of have to wonder what the story is there if he would ever be considered. But as you say, potentially it could be a Caden Young. Potentially it could be who's to say we don't see Brad Young on the bench? Who's to say we
Nobody.
don't?
Yeah, could
Uh,
very easily happen.
there was a question there. I can't find it now, but I remember seeing it a moment ago. Who takes our penalties? Paddy, who do you think takes our penalties? Should we get know that Daniel, William, Patrick, Ings is gone?
Ashley Young, if he's playing.
He will be.
Yeah, I think he'd be playing. If we got a penalty on Saturday, I would be surprised to see anybody push Ashley Young out of the way. But
Anybody that
Leon,
isn't named Philippe Coutinho, I would say.
that's if he's
Maybe.
playing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
and
know
even
what? We just get Dougie to just take a corner instead.
I
Penalty.
don't think we've anything to worry about because we just don't get penalties anyways.
This is it. Where's AVFC Stato? Do you know what? We've talked about getting a producer. I also need to get somebody just to fucking message me and say, can you please text AVFC Stato to get the stats? I have a mental block on doing it every week. Do you know what? I'm going to put it in my phone in reminders right now. Paddy, take the whatever.
He actually sent me a stat today because we were talking about the goals to games ratio of goals to minutes ratio of Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, but we won't go there. He's gone now at this stage, so there's no point.
Yeah. Okay. Reminder set. Now the only problem is I've just set a recurring reminder. We don't always play on Saturday at 3:00, so I'm going to have to undo that now again after the podcast. So see, this is the problem. This is my life.
At least it's there to remind you.
This is my life. I can remember a ballpark figure of Danny Ings' goals to shot ratios over 90 minutes, but I can't remember how to work a bloody phone at times. That's a big issue for me. That's a big issue. I think that's probably going to do it, Paddy. Like, we're obviously going to be back again. You guys are going to see our faces probably before the end of the week. I just have a sneaking suspicion that we might get some announcements of things tomorrow. Villa haven't actually announced Danny Ings has left yet. Maybe it could be Danny Ings is gone. But wait, we have this behind door number 2 is Moussa Dembele or something like that. Wouldn't it be great, actually? I'd love to have that job. I do a load of piss takes, a blind date for my transfer announcements or stuff like that, higher or lower, taking old clips from those shows and putting people's faces on the cards or something like that. I don't know, but once again, tangential, I'm off again, but we're going to probably wrap it up on that, guys. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching and for listening. I'm sure everybody's sick of hearing me today. I do apologize, but we'll be back for a Team Sheet Tantrum on Saturday at 1:50. That's 13:50 in the 24-hour clock, and that is GMT for all our international listeners. And we will also be back with a post-match on Saturday after the Southampton game. So anything breaks in the meantime, we will obviously jump on and we will discuss it. But thanks so much, everybody, for watching and for listening. Please give this a thumbs up. If you think you know of somebody who'd enjoy the podcast, please pass on our link for the podcast on YouTube, or even the audio link. If they don't do YouTube and they just listen to podcasts when they're working or driving or whatever, we always put the stuff up in the audio podcast as well. Word of mouth is the best way to spread stuff like this. And I think as I say, if you guys would consider us spreading it by word of mouth, that would be fan-dabby-dozy, as my aunt used to say. That would be fantastic. So thanks a million. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.